Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles feeding on a surface, gliding on water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When they free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got scars to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Happy Super Bowl Champs Tuesday. Welcome to the Purely Speculation, y'all, guest edition. We have a treat for y'all today, but before we get into that, restorative justice is a way of dealing with crime that focuses on on repairing the harm and accountability rather than punishment. It involves victims, offenders, and the community in the process. We have, how do I want to describe this phenomenal woman? An ally, a sister in arms, a mentor to me, a fierce community advocate, and somebody that I am grateful to call friend, somebody that I can call when I'm going through, when I'm struggling and I don't know which way to go, and to ground me when I want to choose violence. This is somebody that I can call, and this is a local Narstonian, a local historian, a living legend, none other than Maati Yvonne Platts, urban peace and justice warrior, and founder of Restorative Norristown. Hey, sister.
Hey, sister. Thank you for the invitation.
You are so welcome and so deserving of so many more accolades for your life's work. And let me just say how gorgeous you look. And that's what I forgot to say. Happy Black History Month. And that's why you're looking so gorgeous on this evening, the 11th day of Black History Month. But for us folks, every day is Black History, and in the times that we're in right now, we are more intentional than ever to highlight those things. And so when we have guests on the show, and I'm sure you're familiar, and so Maati is not only all those things that I had mentioned, she's also our board president. So she is the board president of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and has been for several years now. And without your support and guidance and leadership, we wouldn't have celebrated 5 years. And so for that, I say thank you. God bless you. And I appreciate you. And may you be blessed with several more crowns than the one you have on your head tonight. And so when we have our guests on, we always start with the origin story, right? It's like, how does one become who they are in this moment today? And we've had conversations, and we've been working together for a long time now. And I know a little bit about your story, but I mean, the depths that are beyond my comprehension and the conversations that we've had. So share with me and our guests the origin story of Maati Yvonne Platts.
Sure. Well, during a young child of the 60s, hello, in the 70s, saying loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Yes. I mean, I was always drawn to who I was. And I believe my first activist stuff actually began with busing, being bused to East Norton. And the day when we had East Norton, middle school at the time, and junior high school. And they didn't want us there, of course. And I grew up always proud of my Black self. I grew up right here on the East End in Norristown, and we had a Jewish corner store. Across the street was the Vietnamese fish market. On the corner was the whole Italian neighborhood. Across the street was Shamrocks, my Irish people. So growing up with ethnic and cultural groups was a thing that everybody got along. And it wasn't until busing started when I began to see that we weren't like first time ever being called the N-word. So it was just on for there to represent and show that, you know, I grew up. The N-word was ignorant people. So, you know, you just an N, you were right. So I think those was the very early days. And then even in high school, we were pushing for, at the time, it was only Black History Week. And so we were always pushing to do workshops, assemblies on Black history, on our Black history.
Amen.
And then going on off to college and everywhere, I think I shared most recently about at the 21, being out there, the King Day, 81, 82, collecting signatures for his day to be a holiday. And we rode through sleet and hail and snow. We walked through sleet, hail, and snow. I'm getting signatures. And at the end of the march, Stevie Wonder came out and hit the stage, and the sun broke through for the first day. And it was just epidemic. It was just wonderful feeling. And I don't know if I got a bug in or what, but it was just always. I mean, I can even remember my mother being on the front lines when it came to that busing and things. But what really happened was watching television one day in the early 90s. Montel Williams show. Yeah, I myself, right? Well, Montel might have had about 8 to 10 young men who were about 12, 13, 14 years old. He asked them, what do you want to be, or where do you think you'd be when you're 18? All but one said dead or in jail.
Wow.
I've set up a prayer that day to ask God to help me make a difference. It seems like ever since, that's what happened. The way my life trajectory has been in working with young people, mostly in development. It started with after-school programs, cultural programs, and some type of way I've always been with our young people. And then I kind of just fell into the restorative justice thing. I was working with after-school programming, my young girls, and I took a survey about what we do, how we do things, and I did circles. We read scriptures, and they talked about how to apply it. But I got asked to go to this restorative conference. I didn't know the work that we was doing and the way we were doing it, that it had a name. And from that on, that conference was with some heavy hitters. Fania Davis, who if anybody knows, is the sister of Angela Davis, and she does just wonderful things up in Oakland with the R-Joy program. And it was a Dr. Morris Jenkins. So I started with them. And yeah, right. I'm like, hey.
You have powerful mentors.
It's really a blessing. And several other. Baba Salim from the family, Washington, D.C. So he came to Norristown to give us a training. And it was a handful of us that took the training. Because the reality is people still don't understand restorative justice as a way of life, as a way of doing things differently when it comes to addressing violence or incarceration or anything. They think it's a fluff program, like you give people a pass. But they don't really understand that, particularly even with our young people, especially, holding them accountable. When they have to really face the facts that what was not harming the one person, but harming the others that involved as well, who are related to the person harmed, then they have to hold themselves accountable and listen to that person share how their actions hurt them, harm them.
Right.
That puts them in a place oftenly that they acknowledge the harm, they apologize where it's not even called as far as the work does, but it comes out. And the
Mhm.
likelihood of reoffending, redoing, studies have showed goes way down. Because the whole restorative thing is that when a person makes their own choices instead of you telling and dictating them what's going to happen, the likelihood of them carrying out and doing things well goes higher when
Right.
they choose their own outcomes, or are able to choose or be part of that process. They can own that and take responsibility. So I was hooked. I was
I know
hooked
that's right.
in circles, and I got it started a little bit, probably in 2018 with a little funding um,
Mhm.
from Shelby County, a drug and alcohol grant. And all, how do we keep our young people from abusing, and how do we keep our young people from being violent? So being able to talk about it, to talk things out. Our thing was take it to the circle. So
Right.
I started then. It's still very slow work, getting people excited. But then I got extra excited because right in Philadelphia, some of my favorite friends, Reverend Donna Jones, got to give her a shout out, had a
Yes.
Restorative Cities Initiative program. And Restorative Cities Initiative was all about the circle process, trauma informed work, uh,
Mhm.
political activism. So that kind of just really put the stamp on the work that I was doing. And with that, we offered up trainings, and those like yourself that took the trainings came
Yes.
forward and we supported. And that's why I say co-founder of Restorative Norristown, because I couldn't have done it without the support of those like yourself who took the training and found themselves caught up in this way of life
Right.
and did it and wanted to share. And that's where we're at now. Continue to create awareness and provide training and support for all those who need it. And it doesn't just have to be when harm is done, because the circle work, restorative work can be for brainstorming, for networking, for
Mhm.
trust building. I mean, the circles is an indigenous process that just works. It includes anybody that wants to be part of your circle who's been harmed or just is interested can be a part
Mhm.
of the circle. Yeah.
Right. And I love the fact that we start with our young people and that it's a training for them. Just participating in the circle, because they have to be vulnerable, they have to kind of process their feelings, they're actually learning a new skill set of how to regulate their emotions and all of that, and from start to finish, with maybe having made a bad choice or decision that actually caused harm. And there are most adults don't know how to do that. They did not learn that as a child or growing up, because we've been taught to, boys don't cry, and we sweep things under the rug, and all those types of things. And this is something, like you said, it's an indigenous practice, it's a holistic practice, and it's a practice that promotes self-healing, so we're less likely to have high blood pressure and all those other stress related illnesses, because we're actually processing those emotions.
They
And
practice empathy and all. Because what happens generally when a child or youth particularly gets punished, they get mad that they punished. And they don't even care about what they did, how, what they just
right.
mad because they being punished. So they never
Mhm.
accept responsibility. And it's always still a blame game on
Right.
they. But yes, with the
Right.
restorative practice and the circle process that we go around and rounds, they get a chance to truly reflect. Oh wow. I could have handled things differently. I really did, cause harm.
Right.
And they begin to take that in, and it transforms who they are, pretty much.
And what are some of the challenges that you've had with wanting to institute restorative practices?
Well, the biggest challenge, and I think, and which was our biggest goal, was to end the school to prison pipeline. I mean, there
Yes.
is data that shows you that the more you get suspended, the likelihood of you being pushed out of school goes up. The likelihood of you going to jail goes up. So restorative practice could save a lot of that if we use it in the schools. But our schools are particularly still bent on being punitive. If you get in a fight, you're suspended, you're in trouble, non-negotiation. And
Right.
very often we have situations where it might be a tussle. You really can't even call it a fight. It might be a hugging and no one's getting harmed. And both parties are generally both at fault, or the outside agitators are at fault, and they never get
Right.
caught up. To be able to use that more often than not would benefit. And it would definitely reduce the number, even the need for suspensions if we handle it right. But again, our school district, a lot of our teachers are still not on board, which makes the leadership not want to implement it.
Right. And it kind of reminds me of, a lot of other systems where they don't want to utilize the holistic methods because it doesn't fulfill the need to fill those prisons.
Yes.
Or for big pharma to kind of push pills towards sick people. It's like all of that is designed to push us away from our holistic nature and natural healing abilities and into this stress, ill, tension and all these unhealthy behaviors when we actually have proven successful, what do they call it, evidence-based practices that actually work, and they still are rejecting them.
And when you hit it, it's because the systems benefit by how many beds are filled, even at our youth detention centers and
Right.
all. So us saving our young people goes against the grain. They need to fill those beds. But the fact the cost, now, if they just looked at the cost to do restorative practice compared to the cost to incarcerate, to detain our young people, it's really no comparison. Because even the work that we do now at this particular point, our major costs are with training. And equipping, paying those who are the facilitators and providing stipends for our young people, and then maybe food and paying for the venue. But our costs are minimal compared to what it costs to detain and house confined our youth, particularly.
And the return is astronomical. I mean, there's no, you can't even quantify the return because you've got productive young people, you've got young people that are making better choices. And, now that they're making better choices, maybe they're going off to school, college, they're going into trade school, they're not using drugs and alcohol, they're not choosing violence. You know what I mean? They're not ashamed to work for $1, work at McDonald's or some fast food or at retail and take those pathways that, social media has a tendency to kind of frown upon because it's not fast, it's not shiny, it's not glittery, it's not loud. You know what I mean? And we're actually teaching our young people critical thinking skills, and that's not what's taught in school.
And leadership. There's a lot of peer leadership when they begin to try to tell their friends, nah, y'all don't need to go that route. Y'all don't need to go that way. Our tagline is, you don't have to fuss and fight about it. Bring it to the circle. Take it to the circle is a mantra I keep trying to put out. Even relationships between parents and the young people are improved by the dialogue process, giving space to hear. Because so often as adults, we talk to our young teens who may act out like they still little.
Right, yeah.
And they really don't get a chance. You got to do so because I say so.
Right.
This is a new age young people.
And our parents need to learn some critical thinking and alternative skills to just because I say so. You're a grandparent, I'm a grandparent, and as a grandparent, I'm learning, or you see clearly, right, the error of your ways as a parent. And because I hate to see my grandson be told something because his parents said so. And I'm like, explain it to him. You know what I mean? And I have to think back, like I was that parent too. You know what I mean? You didn't have, it's just the patience and nobody taught you how to be a parent. You know what I mean? And so it's like our kids are having to learn or suffering because we're learning. And then it's hard because then they're adults and it's hard to kind of undo some of that stuff. And then you see it, happening generation after generation after generation.
Yes, and that's the harm in the crime right there, is that keeping that repetitive circle going on, cycle
Right.
that goes on. I mean, I've heard stories, I know of stories of adults, one dying and never having made up or talked to their sibling. I mean, they've been not talking and communicating for so long, they don't even remember what they were originally mad about. So it creates spaces, we say brave spaces, where we can have honest dialogue, where people speak from the heart. And you listen, not to respond, but you listen from the heart. You observe what's going on intently. Oh, why is that moving something to me? Why do I feel that? Values are addressed. What are those important things that keep you grounded, keep you in the circle, keep you centered, keep you wanting to reach your goals, are implemented and discussed? I mean, and shared amongst us and held on to.
Right. So you shared some of your challenges. What are your greatest accomplishments or joys that you've experienced doing this work?
As I was thinking, even earlier this day, being a part of participatory defense and reuniting fund, one time there was a call out to the participatory defense hubs, and it was about being part of a fasting, a strike. You remember the Free People's Party? And somehow I nominated myself. I volunteered.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Be on no hunger strike.
You did. I remember that. Yep.
Well, that initiative put me out there in a number of spaces and places. I was actually able to get out there one of my first times out there on the platform with our boy Bobby Harris, and we know what beautiful things he has done. And one of the engagements was at the Malcolm X Park, and during COVID, and out there rallying our people to not just vote during the time and make it to the polls, but our governor had promised the compassionate release of those who were 60 or the 70 years old and had spent over 75% of their time incarcerated. And he wasn't releasing them. And there was others that so we was out there challenging, and paperwork was just waiting and sitting on Governor Wolf at the time desk. And I remember, like, Governor Wolf, what you need, an ink pen? And right shortly after that, one of our own long-time incarcerated residents who had been waiting, Frank Butler, got released. So I was like, yay! I don't know if it was my extra rambling out there or the timing and all that pushed it over, but we take it 30, yay! As Rob Fox and Rob has taught us, and there's stories that have been shared. When you fight, you win.
Yes.
So it has been one excellent thing, and the other has been raising up the young people, particularly my grandson.
Yes.
There was one time we had a recent training and with a number of adults, and we had a regular community conference and monthly event. We held the monthly community peace circles once a month for community to come in and for those who have been trained to continue their training. So I wasn't going to be there. And so someone said, well, who's going to lead? My grandson had just told me, I got to do another training. I was like, nope, this time you're going to lead. And so I was like, Chase. It was like, well, he's a kid. I can remember doing a Holy Ghost dance in that moment. I was like, this is the dream. Thank you. This is the dream. This is what I'm praying for. That our young people will lead. That young people will educate and teach the adults. Yes, I was so grateful that I got a glimpse. I got a little glimpse. And this is what it's going to be when Chase took and led that particular training that day, because he had the confidence and the support of the others about him and had been in my for like 10 years.
Right.
By the time he was 8, I think he might have been 16. But that was one of the greatest things right there, watching him lead. Because after that, then the adults were ready to lead. That's kind of least that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Recently, you got an award. Tell me the name of the group that gave you the award, because I don't remember that.
Oh, girl, I'm gonna have to.
the women's.
It's the women. It's our Quakers, our friends.
Women's International
like, Peace and Freedom League.
Yes.
Peace and Freedom League. And the award was the Peace and Justice Award. The Peace and Justice Dove Award. Yes.
And who was leading when we walked in?
Oh, yes. Chase.
Yes.
My grandson.
Again,
we have
50 or 60 people, right? 50 or 60 people in that room.
Yes. And it was a great celebration. I so appreciated you, yes, that he was able to come, because one of the things we've been doing with what has happened too without funding is our young people having to take jobs elsewhere. And so I'm losing my young people, so they don't have the time to show up because they need to.
Yeah, they got to work. Got to make money.
They have to work. And so that's one of our hopes, is for support, where I continue to provide stipends to my young people for facilitating and for leading our circles.
Right. Yes. Right. And so you have another special talent, as you've been channeling this woman for some time now, and I think we're going to get to see her. But tell us, we'll let you introduce Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, but tell us what drew you to, of all the powerful Black women in our history, what led you to Fannie Lou Hamer?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think I first heard her story through Girl Trek. Girl Trek is the largest health organization for African American women. And they started by the civil rights movement, modeling how they organized and strategized. And so they were lifting up different sheroes and heroes from the civil rights era. So I think I heard a little piece of Fannie's story then. And so as time went on, when there was times to do something, I had a list of students, and for volunteer during Black History Month, they were supposed to do a performance. They all left me, and I did Fannie by myself for like 10 minutes. Then June came, and I was asked to do something, and I did maybe a little 10 minutes, if that. And I was like, Fannie, just about to urge that her whole story needed to come up for such a time as this. And as it was, it's been 60 years. She was at the National Democratic Convention in Atlantic City and took power. Her power statement and testimony got heard all around the world.
All right, well, folks is going to get to see and hear a little bit of her story as presented by you. And they can also go to our YouTube channel if they want to see the full presentation that you did for us at our 5-year anniversary back in November. So here's a little snippet, but we do have the full, probably about 15 minutes of your rendition of Fannie Lou Hamer. Take a look.
Can we just get a hand clap for the side? We are so grateful to have you out with us tonight. If anybody didn't let you know already, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, okay? I'm one of the many who are not on the list. Okay? When our kids go to school and they ask to do these reports, who they get? Rosa. We love Rosa. And we like Harriet Tubman. And we love Martin Luther King. But they don't go deep enough of those of us who are on the front lines. I want to begin just a little bit of my story, okay, as Fannie. And how I really got started, y'all. It started back in 1962, August the 31st. I had went to go register to try to register to vote, okay? I didn't know that we was even able to go register to vote. But SNCC had came into our community and has told us about the power of our vote and how we could elect people, those who we wanted and those who we trusted to do the work. So I was like, I am down, sign me up. So when I go register to vote and I make it back home, before I even get home good, here come my children talking about mama, Mr. Marlowe looking for you. Here come Marlowe. Fannie, I heard you went down there to register to vote. I did. Well, Fannie, you're going to have to go back and take your name off because we're not ready for that here in Mississippi. I said, Mr. Marlowe, I didn't go down there to register for you. I registered for me, okay? So he goes, well, Fannie, I'm going to give you till tomorrow to decide whether to take your name off the register or not. And if you don't, you got to go. And depending on how I feel, you might still have to go. I said, Mr. Marlowe, bye. I left that night. And I want y'all to know that was my freedom there. That was the first day off of the plantation that I had been on since I was 6 years old.
When I tell you, I was there. I was back in time, sitting there like a little kid with my legs crossed at your feet, listening, because the wisdom, you could feel it. You could hear it. Like it was like she was there. It was such a powerful moment. And I guarantee you, we had 50, 60 people there. If 10% knew who Fannie Lou Hamer was that night, before that night, right, I'll be shocked. I would be shocked. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, she's not on the list. And that was such a, you did your thing. I ain't asked you to do it. You did your thing, came out with the not on the list. I was like,
well, I guess all of that needs to be shared. And one of the reasons why Fannie is so unknown is because Fannie came from the cotton fields all the way to Congress. See, and they didn't want her story that, illiterate, they wanted to call her and all of that. But right. They didn't want us to realize that anybody can do this. Not just Fannie's voice. She wasn't nobody particular. Like I say, her mother was all on the plantation, never left the plantation, worked and died on the plantation. But here she rose up from the cotton fields to champion for the right to vote so that she could have, Mississippians could have a better way of life.
Right.
Yes. I enjoy telling her story. It gives me energy in this work. And it empowers me even more for this work. Being able to tell her stories and how we can be like Fannie and find ourselves in positions. What happened was she, ended up at the convention center that year where her speech testimony, and they were trying to get seated, the Freedom Democratic Party.
Right.
It didn't happen that year. But 4 years later, not only was it no longer an all-white male party, it was 50% women. And a percentage of people of Black people which Fannie and them was a part of. And from then
Right.
on, they wanted to know, but what seats are open in the House? So they went on to the House of Representatives. They went on to Congress. And that's what we need to do here. To hold our people in position accountable, as Fannie would. You know, we can vote you in, we can vote you out. Because something happens sometimes when people get into office. They seem to go by the will or the way that's not the people's way.
Right.
Personal ambitions and endeavors seem to come more importantly. So we as community need to find out what seats are open, what spots, and how we can run, how we can educate and prepare persons to be in positions of power, of leadership, of decision-making power, and deciding the best interest for a community.
And you have recently, I guess, again, channeling Fannie Lou Hamer's spirit and advocacy and courage to take up another fight. You kind of alluded to it a little bit, and yes, we absolutely that is the reason why. But what sparked it? There was something that happened that sparked, because I've been on council for a long time and we've been friends for a long time, and it's like, you know what I mean? People, you know, their lives take them in on a path, and you know, it's because I want to say things were good. You know, council was working, the leadership was working, the leadership was, you know, hearing the voices of the people, and things were progressing. And then there was a shift, and then this happened. So how did this happen impact you?
Well, you must be talking about our first Black female chief of police in Norristown. Well, our chief, Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis, came to, shortly after she came in January, she came to one of our circles at the library, Restorative Norristown Circle. And she sat in our circle and she introduced herself and engaged with every single one in that circle, wanted to know what they wanted in community policing, what they wanted to see. And the circle became hers. And I was bought in then. And then so I was delighted to work alongside her. And then she was making waves. She was connecting in community, partnering with different organizations. And then all of a sudden, our borough manager at the time, he left. And we were replaced with an interim person. Somebody that was professionally prepared, trained, whatever they say it, skilled, not.
He was fired.
There had been a parking sign, parking for chief of police. Sign had been up for 40 years or more. A sign that every chief, male person before her had. The sign that she had for 6 months until the interim person came in and took the sign down. I thought it was a joke. I didn't even think. I'm like, what, they going to put up another one?
Right, get a new one.
But what I began to find out that this was an intentional. This was something intentional to demean her, belittle her. And so I decided that, okay, I was embarrassed, truthfully. I was hurt that this is the way my community would treat this fine woman, that police chief, who had been chosen, mind you, after a national big old search, after $72,125 was spent on a survey on what's good in the police officer. And here she was chosen. And now this is the way we want to treat her. So I decided just to buy another sign. Parking for the chief of police, Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis. But then my sign was taken down as well. And the sign actually never got put back up.
Right.
And so that first put me out there to create awareness that something is going on, the removal of the sign is just the tip of the iceberg. We don't know what else is going on up underneath. And what else was going on was the systemic, sexist, and racist maneuvers to push her out.
Right.
And so, yes, I promised myself that, like the woman in the Bible, the persistent woman in the Bible, that every time they had council meetings, that I was going to be there, that I would have something to address them on, particularly, first of all, about the removal of the sign, and then the dismissing and the pushing out of her as our police chief. Eventually did happen. So I continue to push and ask questions, particularly the $72,125 that our community taxpayers pay for.
Right.
So I did a right to know to ask, well, what are those 95 recommendations that came out of that report? Because these recommendations are supposed to strengthen how the police force operates. Show your weaknesses, show your strengths. They were supposed to include community to help prioritize and the implementation of these recommendations. So I think these got to be really some valuable tools for us. Well, I did receive the right to know request, but it was all redacted. So I do not know what the 95 recommendations are yet.
Do you got headings? You got anything?
Now, we had the headings were just about the hiring, hiring procedures, all redacted. Community building skills, community engagement, all redacted. Every heading that I don't have in front of me right now was redacted. All 95 skills, 95 recommendations that should be access to our community that we could work on have been redacted.
That the community paid for. The taxpayer paid for that.
Taxpayer money's paid for it. And a conversation with our current borough manager let me know that these recommendations will not be acted upon until we got a new chief of police. But the recommendations should have even helped us in the search and in the process. Why aren't we using them? It's my next question at the next borough meeting. Sorry, municipality is the new a borough. We are a municipality.
Well, you have been doing a phenomenal job of keeping the pressure on, and that's what you have to do to get change. And and just like anything else, it requires endurance. It requires transparency and trust. And like I said, and so I find myself having to turn to you and turn to like my Cali folks, because I'm quick to choose violence. I go from 0 to 60. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm ready to tear my head off. And that one particular night, we were asked to stand down, right? On that particular topic by the chief, but we had to pivot in that moment and still be able to keep pressure on the council, because what they did was still wrong, and the lack of transparency was still wrong. But I was still angry, and I had to figure out, and I was struggling. Remember, I was calling you. I was sitting out front. I'm steaming, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. And you were the voice of wisdom, the voice of reason, the voice of peace, but you were still with the fire. Just because we don't have to, what would you say, be angry and sin not, right?
Yes.
And that resonated with me. And I said, because it validated my anger. We're not wrong for being angry, but sin not. And I needed to be reminded of that. And in that moment, and you did, and it was like, all right, well, you go first, I'll go second.
And it was a challenge for me, but in the end, hadn't practiced this restorative practices. Like I say, it's not just something you do, it's actually something you become. So in a way for me, and I had to tell myself, okay, peacemaker, okay, restorative practitioner, okay, how do you do this? And my thing was, okay, you don't attack anybody's character, or name. We talk about the issues. We talk about what's been done. We talk about what's been seen, and in the best way. And when it all came said and down, and after she had pushed out and there was nothing else to do, I just lamented. You just lament.
Yes. Yes. And so, as a tribute, when your calling is public service, you show up in public spaces. Yeah. And with that, and I've said this before, I think probably last year, now it might have been, I'm trying to think when Sharice, who is the mother of Debug, right? The mother of participatory defense. I don't know if she was February or if she was March, but we touched on women in the movement, right? And I said, Google us, Google them. Well, guess what we did? We Googled you. Google her. She is so humble and so behind the scenes, not wanting to, we make a noise as it needs to be made, but not noise like, oh, look at me. It's like, no, look at the shenanigans that's going on. And this is what we found, my sister, when we Googled you.
Okay.
This is what we
found. I guess I've been out there just a little bit, huh?
Not a little bit. Little something. You little something, man.
Yes.
Okay. You out there, sis. Your message, the word, the energy. And let me say that because we talked about it. The energy, that's what I'm telling you. We kept talking about Fannie Lou. And after a while, Fannie Lou just started popping up in my news feed.
Yes.
It kept up in my stream. It kept popping up on Instagram. It kept popping up on Facebook. And I kept sending to you. See, here she go again. She keep popping up. She's speaking to us.
Just yesterday with comments about Kendrick Lamar. They did a split with Kendrick Lamar and with Fannie, because Fannie's always talking about, is this America? The land of the free and the home of the brave? I don't think so. What she told them, it's the land of the tree and the home of the grave.
Yeah. And Kendrick also said, the revolution will be televised. Now, I appreciate Gil Scott Heron, but it is time to televise. Back then, it meant something different. Today, the revolution is being televised, and it's going
to own it. Who we are and what needs to be done, and who's called to do it. We need to walk in it. And we feel there's a purpose and call on our life, which is what keeps me at the front. It's like I can't sit back when injustice is going down. In my area of influence, what little area that might be, I'm going to do what's within my power to name it and learn to make the demands that necessary, and hopefully to strategize and organize better so others can really come on board. Because there were some of them council meetings where, like I told them, I stand as one, but I come as many. But I felt it. And I realized that everybody is built the same way. But being able to pour into people that in your area of influence, you can do. As churches, sometimes we don't want to get political or do things, but still, our congregation members can do something more.
Yes.
Even at our school level and addressing the school. I go back from the school because I say all the students are mine, but at the same time, I don't have a child in the school. So I need parents to advocate for a restorative practice in their school. More parents to advocate for training and equipping of our young people. Trauma-informed work is not really happening. Mental health, addressing our mental health among students. We don't do a very good job at even addressing grief and loss that happens. And that kind of can infuse and deepen and end up in anger and contribute to violence, being it's not addressed. Creating these spaces, having people who are trained to lead wherever they are, that's another fun the cadre that we as partners. They took the training, they took this work and they ran with it and they implemented it with their families and their youth there to serve. And that is the hope that more people get trained and implement this in their areas to find us keeping but in unity and support.
Absolutely. And I just want to echo that our families that do have children in the Norristown area school district should demand restorative practices be implemented in the school, considering that it's a line item in the budget. Okay. If they don't get it, y'all, we're paying for it. It is a line item in the Norristown area school district's budget, but we don't see that activity happening in our school. So what's
in namesake, they do. Like even in community here, our youth aid panel is a restorative program underneath the district attorney's office, but it's not restorative. And the programs that they're doing are not restorative. And you could tell just by the outcomes.
and by the volunteers that are allowed to participate in restorative Norristown. You know what I mean? Your criminal history or your background or things like, not that it's saying it doesn't matter. We understand that. But people have lived experiences. People have lived. And just because you didn't get caught doesn't mean that you don't have hate in your heart or that you're secretly doing something, whether you're, you know what I mean, oppressing young people or oppressing people of color or our trans, families or whatever, our Latino, Hispanic, or, you know what I mean, or national students, our immigrants. Like, if you're doing any of those things, that should disqualify you from being a youth aid panel volunteer until you've gone through this restorative stuff and you've plucked all of that out of your heart.
Yes.
So one last thing before we go, and then we're going to give our Eagles a shout out, is we have one of my favorite parts of the show is the what the fuck moment. The what the fuck moment is something that has happened, something that, makes you scratch your head, makes you wonder. Mine gives me gray hair. Is there anything that you can think of that's just like, wow, fuck?
Well, I can just go back to what I lifted up. What happened with that chief of police, Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis. The fact that this woman came into our community to serve with heart and passion and genuine love for this community, was implementing recommendations already done, and they pushed her out. They papers on her, basically fired her. But I think the end result was retiring. But at the same time, the fact that we had council people, some that look like us, but ain't like us.
Yeah, and they ignored the voice of the people. They ignored the voice of the people. They allowed themselves to be influenced by other politicians and whatever promises and personal agendas. We see it playing out today.
It happened here in Norristown. I demonstrated that it was happening in Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, all over. That it's systemic, y'all.
Yes.
Don't let it happen here. But it's happen here is truly my what the F moment. Yes.
Right. Yes, no, it is. And we are fighting and thanks to Kendrick Lamar, with everything that he did at the Super Bowl halftime show, and to our Eagles, go Birds, who are the Super Bowl champs. So this, y'all, is the reason why we were late. Aside from me having coughing fits because I'm just getting over the flu, I had this shirt on, and this shirt is Kelly Green. I don't know if y'all can tell, probably like see-through or whatever. I had the shirt on, so I disappeared. So I had to change my shirt, but I was mad. So I was like, well, I'm gonna let y'all see my shirt that I got from my boy Jerry up on Henderson Road and 202 corner of where Chick-fil-A and the Wine and Spirits. He'll be out there all week. The Eagles parade is on Friday. I don't know if I'm a brave it going out there. Friday's Valentine's Day. There's so much going on this week that it's just a lot. And so before I let you go, I'm going to shout out our sister Denise. I always want to put an R like Arguto, Agurto, who is the executive director of the Unitas Patterson Norristown. Keep an eye on your Latino brothers and sisters. ICE is still out there. Don't, just because it's been kind of quiet and, that's kind of what happens. They do what they do, and then, they let the people kind of die down, and then they start keeping moving in secret. And so if your folks are turning up missing, if people are disappearing and you're seeing, ICE activity, don't stop reporting it. They had a phenomenal rally over the weekend and supporting the Latino businesses down there. And look, the immigrants are not just Latinos. They are Black and brown. We do have, African immigrants. We have East Indian. We have, Asian. And don't forget, just because ICE is targeting through the executive orders, Black and brown, and I don't like to use the term illegal immigrants, but undocumented immigrants come in all colors. And so don't just go with the rhetoric that it's, Black and brown that are criminals and illegal. That's what they want you to believe. And it's still causing the divide. And we are constantly having to fight and push back against that. And, we just want to lift them up and the culture and things are happening. Like, you know what I mean? Folks are standing up in Ohio, in Arizona. You know what I mean? So there's pushback in California. So we just want to, just lift our brothers and sisters up in all of those spaces. But also, too, Friday is Valentine's Day. And normally we would be having our in-person Love Bonds variety show, right? And unfortunately, Valentine's Day on a Friday, it was just, our vendors are in high demand, our talents, all of our comedians and our singers and our spoken word artists are out doing their thing. And we just couldn't compete. So we have the Love Bonds Date Night Extravaganza, right? Zach made me do that.
Tickets now, yes.
Yes. We've extended the deadline till February 28th. So we were going to do the drawing on the 14th, but we've extended it to the 28th. And so you still have time to purchase your tickets. $10 will get you 2 tickets. We're starting to show off some of the restaurants and places, venues that are supporting Bodies by Ya. You can get a couples, workout. We got couples massage coming on board. We've got family night with Devin Lanes and what was the other? Dave and Buster's. We're working on Our Town Alley. So we've got family night. We've got date night after the big night. That's with your significant other. You want to take your homie out. Y'all go bowling. You want to take your sister out. You know what I mean? Y'all go get your nails done. Y'all can go, to the winery. We've got Longwood Gardens. You know what I mean? So we can couple up some packages. There's lots of things that are coming up that you can participate in. And also, too, if you don't want to miss the next episode of Purely Speculation, please like, share, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Reuniting Family Bail Fund. You won't miss it. You'll get notifications if you turn them on, but at least something will pop up and you'll know that we're going to be having another live episode, whether it's with a phenomenal guest that's doing big things out in our community, holding it down and standing in the gap for those that don't have or still finding their voice, or us, calling out what's going on in the court systems. We just want to lift them up. And if you want to be a guest, hit us up. You can go to our website, www.bailfundmonco.org. Hit one of the contact us forms. It doesn't matter what you pick, it'll get to us. And we'll get you to the appropriate place to get you registered to be a guest. And of course, we can't do this without money. You know what I mean? $100 is the price of freedom. Actually, $77 is the price of freedom. $25 is the price of freedom. $2.50 was the price of freedom. And so if you want to support what we're doing and freeing folks from pretrial incarceration, hit us up. There's a donate now button on our website. And, we've got a quick video of me doing goofy things that, Zach makes me do when I'm trying to promote all of our stuff. But here goes the Love Bonds Extravaganza ticket raffle.
Hey y'all, Valentine's Day is around the corner and we would be hosting our live in-person Love Bonds variety show. But if you know or if you don't know, Valentine's Day is on a Friday this year and our venues, our vendors, and our artists are in high demand. And as a fundraiser, we couldn't compete with that. So our creative geniuses had to go back into the lab and they came back with the Date Night Raffle Extravaganza. Every $10 donation gets you not one, but 2 chances to win one of our fabulous prizes to some of our favorite places to eat and play. And this just in, we've extended the deadline to purchase tickets and to make donations till February 28th, the end of the month. So hit up your mamas, your baby mamas, your baby daddies, your little baby cousins' daddies, and all them people to get tickets. Extravaganza.
Outcast was my idea. So there's still time, y'all. Yvonne, don't hang up. Again, please like, follow, share. If you like what you see on our site, you'll be able to find Yvonne's contact information for lifting up restorative Norristown and all the other fabulous work that she's doing. And my sister, I thank you. You look beautiful. And I will see y'all soon. All right. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah.
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fucking life. I be fog lights with the fox head, body and I'm all set. Baby, can you be my Cardi B on an offset? Toast we got it, selfie.